You spend years giving everything to everyone else. You shrink yourself to fit into places that were never meant to hold your light. You play small. You nod when you want to scream. You smile when your soul is breaking inside. Why? Because you were taught somewhere along the way that love is earned through sacrifice. That worth is measured by how much of yourself you give away. That being good means being quiet, being agreeable, being invisible. But there comes a moment when the weight of pretending becomes heavier than the fear of being seen. There comes a moment when the pain of abandonment, even by others, is less terrifying than abandoning yourself. And that moment, that's when everything changes. That's when you finally choose you. Choosing yourself doesn't mean selfishness. It means sanity. It means refusing to betray your soul just to soothe someone else's comfort. It means saying, I will no longer make myself sick in order to make others feel better. It means setting a boundary and not apologizing for it. It means walking away even when your knees shake. It means speaking your truth even if your voice trembles. Because for too long, you've been at war with yourself. And no amount of love from the world will heal a heart you keep wounding. You cannot receive what you do not believe you deserve. And until you stop abandoning yourself, until you stop silencing your needs, your voice, your fire, the world will mirror your neglect right back to you. But the moment you choose yourself, truly, completely, unapologetically, you realign the entire universe. Because life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you believe you're worthy of. So when you raise your standard, when you declare that your peace is non-negotiable, when you decide that your dreams are not optional, everything starts to shift. The wrong people fall away. The noise dies down. And suddenly, you're not chasing things anymore. They're chasing you. But don't be surprised when people get uncomfortable. Because when you stop being who they wanted you to be, they'll call it change. They'll call it rebellion. They'll call it betrayal. But what it really is rebirth. You're not destroying anything. You're just no longer dimming your light to make others feel safe in the dark. And if that makes them leave, let them go. Because the ones who are meant for you, they don't need you small. They don't need you silent. They rise with you. They expand with you. Choosing yourself isn't loud. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes. It's the quiet decision to not answer that call, to not explain yourself this time, to walk out of that room and never walk back in. It's the quiet courage to say, I'm not available for disrespect even if it's dressed as love. You weren't born to be everyone's solution. You were born to become your own salvation. When you choose yourself, you begin to see things as they really are, not how they've been painted for you. You notice how many times you've said yes just to avoid being misunderstood. You see how often you've over-explained, over-delivered, overextended just to keep the peace. A peace that was never yours to begin with. You realize that some of your greatest exhaustion didn't come from doing too much. It came from not doing what matters. Because you weren't exhausted from the work. You were exhausted from the performance. Performing happiness. Performing agreement. Performing a version of yourself that would be easier for others to digest. But choosing yourself, that's when the masks come off. That's when your no becomes sacred. That's when your time becomes a fortress, not a freeway. You start asking different questions. Not, what will they think of me? But, what will I think of me if I stay silent one more time? You stop fearing rejection and start fearing regret because you learned something powerful. You were never truly afraid of being alone. You were afraid of being you and not being liked for it. But the cost of approval is too high when the price is your own voice. And so you begin quietly intentionally. You protect your mornings. You guard your energy. You stop chasing validation like it's oxygen. Because here's the truth. If someone only loves the version of you that makes them comfortable, they don't love you. They love control. When you choose yourself, you choose discomfort for a while. You choose growth over approval. You choose alignment over attachment. And yes, it's messy. Yes, it's lonely. Yes, it's terrifying. But on the other side of that terror is freedom. You'll begin to breathe differently. You'll walk into rooms without scanning for permission. You'll speak without rehearsing. You'll rest without guilt. You'll stop apologizing for your dreams, for your voice, for your presence, because you finally understand you don't need to deserve space. You are the space. And suddenly, things start aligning. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You'll find new people. People who speak your language even in silence. People who aren't intimidated by your light, but inspired by it. You'll notice opportunities appearing not by accident, but because your vibration called them in. You won't have to knock on closed doors anymore. You'll build your own. Because when you stop negotiating with your worth, life stops sending you things that require it. And make no mistake, this isn't easy. It's not a highlight reel. It's not all empowerment quotes and morning routines. It's shadow work. It's old wounds resurfacing. It's grieving the version of yourself you pretended to be for so long. But that grief, that's sacred. Because you're not just losing people. You're losing illusions. You're not just walking away. You're coming home. When you finally choose yourself, you stop begging for crumbs at tables where you were meant to build your own. You stop shrinking your dreams to fit someone else's comfort zone. You stop breaking your back just to earn what you were born worthy of. You stop asking, am I too much? And start asking, why have I tolerated so little? You wake up with fire in your chest. Not anxiety in tension, not fear clarity. Not desperation, but a calm, grounded knowing that you are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are choosing you every single day. You realize the path to your greatness is not paved in permission. It's paved in decisions, hard ones, lonely ones, bold ones. And those decisions, they make you dangerous. Not because you hurt others, but because you're no longer willing to hurt yourself to keep others comfortable. The world responds differently to people who are no longer pretending. You'll see it, the silence of those who once loved your compliance, the confusion of those who thrived on your doubt, the discomfort of those who can't manipulate a soul that's finally awake. But that's not your problem anymore, because when you finally stop performing, you start attracting. You start drawing in people who don't need you to play small. You draw in rooms that respect your voice, not just your silence. You draw in opportunities that once seemed unreachable, because your old self wasn't ready to receive them. But now you are. You're no longer asking, will they approve? Now you're asking, does this align with who I'm becoming? You stop hustling for validation. You start creating from overflow. You stop proving yourself. You start expressing yourself. You stop chasing love. You become love. Because choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sovereign. It means you're no longer outsourcing your joy, your peace, your worth to people who never knew how to hold it. It means you're no longer seeking freedom, you're embodying it. And that changes everything. You stop living reactively and start leading intentionally. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and realize you are the moment. You stop settling for potential and start demanding results. Because once you see yourself clearly, the version of you beneath the fear, the guilt, the old stories, you can't unsee it. And once you taste the power of full alignment, you can never go back to half living. When you finally choose yourself, you understand that peace is louder than noise. Success is quieter than the crowds. And power? Real power isn't about how you look. It's about how you walk. How you enter a room with no need to prove, no urge to explain. Just a silent confidence that says, I know who I am, and I won't betray that again. You begin to walk differently. Not faster, but firmer. Not chasing, but claiming. Not anxious, but anchored. You show up without masks. You speak without filters. You move without chains. And suddenly the weight of being everything to everyone lifts, because the only person you're responsible for saving is the one staring back in the mirror. You stop being loyal to suffering. You stop defending your limitations. You stop explaining your growth to people who fear their own. And in that space, that sacred space of full ownership, you meet the version of you who was buried under years of doubt. You meet the warrior, the creator, the visionary, the leader. And for the first time, you look in the mirror, not with regret, but with reverence. Because the climb was brutal. The awakening was lonely. But the rebirth, it was worth it. This is what happens when you finally choose yourself. You become unshakable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. You become unavailable to anything that insults your spirit. You become immune to manipulation, allergic to fake love, and addicted to truth. You stop playing by rules designed to keep you small. You start building a reality designed to match your power. And maybe they'll say you've changed. Maybe they'll whisper that you're not the same. Let them, because you didn't come this far to remain a watered-down version of yourself. You didn't survive everything just to stay invisible. You didn't wake up just to go back to sleep. You came to remember who you are. And now that you've chosen yourself, you will never forget again. Stand tall. Speak truth. Move forward. Because when you finally choose yourself, the world has no choice but to rise and meet you there. Thank you.